very good evening. Welcome to Primetime News on MTV Sports. My name is Ravi Damage.
And I'm Krishni Pandagaratna. We start off the news with a look at your headlines first.
Japan prepared to provide technical assistance to Sri Lanka to make power generation more efficient. Azad Saleh, who was arrested, is questioned further. Fuel adjustment charge for electricity consumers who use between 61 to 180 units of electricity slashed by 25%. A group of students who are unable to transfer to other national schools for study for their A-levels lodged a complaint with the Human Rights Commission.
Police media spokesperson Superintendent of Police Buddhika Siriwardana said that former Deputy Mayor of Colombo Azad Saleh, who was arrested this morning, is being questioned by the Criminal Investigations Department. SP Buddhika Siriwardana added that Azad Saleh was taken into custody based on several complaints.
According to police media spokesperson SP Buddhika Siriwardana, Azad Saleh was arrested this morning while at a house in Salamulla, Kolonnawa. The daughter of Azad Saleh said that the police who arrived at around 5:55 this morning had informed that her father had to be taken in for questioning.
Search warrant එකක් ගෙනලා තිබ්බේ නැහැ. Lawyer එනකන් ඉන්න කිව්වා පොඩ්ඩ.
They had no search warrant. We asked them to wait until our lawyer arrived. They did not want to wait for even 5 minutes. They took our keys and phones and instructed us not to speak to anyone. They also took down our identity card numbers, saying it was a formality. We asked for them to give us time until my father got dressed, but they did not allow it. They said that this is a charge in the Terrorism Act and that there was no bailout and that there was no need for a search warrant.
Bailout එකක් නැහැ මේකට. එතකොට කිව්වා මේ search warrant එකක් ඉල්ලුවා ගමන් මේකට search warrant එකක් ඕනේ නැහැ කියලා.
The police media spokesperson said that the details of the charged files against Azad Saleh cannot be disclosed. Meanwhile, family members of Azad Saleh arrived at the National Hospital this afternoon after being informed that Azad Saleh will be brought to the hospital after taking ill.
මට අපේ lawyer කිව්වා
Our lawyer mentioned that he will speak to the OIC and arrange time for his wife to take him some food. We were told he was taken ill to the hospital. When we came to the hospital, he was not there. They called us over the phone and told us that he was brought back from hospital.
මොනා හරි එකක් වුණා නම් the CID and the government has to take all responsibility.
I called them and told them that I am the daughter of Azad Saleh and I need to speak with him. They would not tell me whether he is there or not. There is no point in talking in this country where there is no law.
නැති රටක කතා කරලා වැඩකුත් නැහැ.
Meanwhile, leader of the Democratic Party, Sarath Fonseca, shared these views on the arrest of former Deputy Mayor of Colombo, Azad Saleh.
ත්‍රස්තවාදය මැඩලීමේ පනත යටතේ ඔහුට විරුද්ධව චෝදනා නගලා තියෙනවා කියලා තමයි අපට ආරංචි. මහ ජනතාව කැළඹීමට උත්සාහ කිරීම කියන චෝදනාව.
We have received word that charges have been filed against him under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The charge is inciting the public. As a politician, he should have the right to express his views. Since the person ruling the country is a politician, other politicians in the country should have the right to criticize that politician. If not, we will have to question whether there is no political freedom and whether this country is ruled by a dictator. Nobody has the right to arrest an individual under the Prevention of Terrorism Act for making a statement. Azad Saleh is an individual who strongly criticized me in the past. At least now he has realized the truth. We understand that many of those who voted against me at the presidential election have now realized the truth.
අසාද් සාලී කියන පුද්ගලයා ඊටම තදින් අතීතයේ මාවත් විවේචනය කරා. දැන් හරි ඔහුට සත්‍යයේ තේරුම් ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. මේ රටේ වගේ හුඟක් අයට ජනාධිපතිවරණයේදී මට විරුද්ධව ඡන්දය ප්‍රකාශ කරපු අයට දැන් සත්‍යයේ තේරලා තියෙනවා අපට තේරෙනවා.
The visiting Deputy Prime Minister of Japan, Taro, also said that technical assistance will be provided to Sri Lanka for a more efficient power generation. Taro also, who is in the island on a 2-day visit, made this comment when he called on President Mahinda Rajapaksa at Temple Trees this morning.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa and the Deputy Japanese Prime Minister had agreed to further develop economic cooperation and investment promotion between the two countries. The communique issued by the President's spokesperson and the international media unit says that the President had emphasized the need for cooperation in the international arena. President Rajapaksa, who expressed his gratitude for Japan's continuous support to Sri Lanka for large-scale projects, also appreciated the understanding Japan has on the situation in Sri Lanka. A group including the Deputy Senior Finance Minister of Japan, Yuko Obuchi, and the Japanese Ambassador to Sri Lanka were present at the meeting at Temple Trees.
The Ministry of Power and Energy has decided to slash 25% of the fuel surcharge that will be charged from electricity consumers using 61 to 180 electricity units. Secretary to the Ministry MMC Ferdinando said that this decision was reached after recommendations for concessions were made by President Mahinda Rajapaksa.
In addition, the proposed tariff bracket from 61 units will be implemented from 66 units upwards, and the proposed tariff bracket from 91 units will be implemented from 96 units upwards. According to the new tariff revision, the tariff bracket that was to be implemented from 121 units upwards will be implemented from 126 units upwards. The Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy said the aforementioned tariff brackets were decided on the President's recommendations for concessions. Meanwhile, when News First made inquiries, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka said that if funds are allocated by the Treasury to cover up the losses, the electricity tariffs can be reduced.
මුදල් ප්‍රමාණය යම් ප්‍රමාණයක් මුදල් ලැබෙනවා නම් ඒ ප්‍රමාණයට අනුකූලව රජය විසින්
If a certain amount of funds are released from the Treasury, then a concession according to the amount of funds released can be granted to a group of electricity consumers approved by the government for the concessions. That can be considered, and the controversial electricity tariff system could be changed. Why did we call for submissions? It was not to ask whether the electricity tariff should be increased or reduced. We asked for recommendations on how to reduce the 228 billion rupees. It is not possible to obtain views from the public for each and every division. There is no need for it, and it is something that is not done.
මේ සංශෝධනයක් පාසා මහජන අදහස් ප්‍රතිවිරුද්ධ පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ. ඒක කිසිසේම කරන්න අවශ්‍යකത කරන්නේ නැහැ.
අසත්‍ය වැරදි තොරතුරු සමාජයට ගලාගෙන යන ආණ්ඩුව හදෝ මේ වැඩි කිරීම සාධාරණීකරණය.
The government attempted to pave the way for false information to flow into society and also attempted to justify this increase. They said that coal and diesel had to be used to generate power for those using more than 90 or 100 units. Hydroelectricity can be provided to those who use up to 90 units in the country. The cost to generate a unit of hydroelectricity is 3 rupees and 25 cents. At the Lakshapana plant, it costs only 45 cents. It is in this backdrop that this government made this price hike without taking into consideration the basic rights of the people. We ask the electricity tariffs be brought back to the previous range. If there is an issue, we can discuss it.
විදුලි බිල හිටපු තැනට ආපහු කනවන්න. ප්‍රශ්නයක් තිබුණා වෙනම සාකච්ඡා කරගමු.
මේ අර්බුදය බල නොපාන කෙනෙක් කවුද? විශේෂයෙන්ම අපේ රටේ විවිධ බදු වලින්
There is no person who is not affected by this crisis. This is another burden on the burdens that lay on the industrialists, small and medium-scale businessmen and everyone else. There will be some sort of relief if the tariffs are revised to its previous state. If not, it is a burden and a pressure.
එසේ නොවන සෑම තත්වයක්ම බරක් තමයි. පීඩනයක් තමයි.
On the 17th of April, the Public Utilities Commission informed that permission was granted to the Ceylon Electricity Board to increase the electricity tariffs with effect from the 20th of April. From then on, News First extensively discussed how the new electricity tariff revision would affect the domestic consumers and the industrial sector in order to make the public aware on how the new electricity tariff revision will be applied to the respective electricity consumer categories. News First highlighted that the public will have to face a 3-point pressure brought on by the increase in electricity tariffs, increase in goods and services, and the slashing of allowances paid to employees by companies that have to pay higher electricity charges.
Time now for the newspaper cartoon of the day.
And on business news this evening, the International Monetary Fund notes that there is a possibility of inflation increasing in the future. The resident representative of the IMF, Dr. Koshi Mathai, made this observation during a media briefing in Colombo.
A media briefing was held in Colombo today to create awareness on the IMF Executive Board's discussion of Sri Lanka's 2013 Article 4 consultation.
Inflation has come down quite a bit. There was a very recent release of the April data showing that inflation is down to 6.4%. But we expect that inflation figure to rise once again as the impact of the electricity tariff hike is fully reflected. And generally we remain cautious in terms of inflation. Sri Lanka, after all, has had a long history of high inflation. And while it's an excellent thing, very commendable thing that we have now had more than 4 years of single-digit inflation, I think we would all agree that single-digit inflation is not the final goal. We can't rest on our laurels. We need to reduce inflation further for the good of the economy.
The IMF resident representative also shared these views on the revised electricity tariffs.
The cost of doing that change yesterday, of reversing the hike, is actually not a very large cost. And it seems to do something to shield the poor, as you're saying. So we can understand that logic, makes a lot of sense. But that also has to be balanced. The overall, some burden still lies on the higher consuming consumers, naturally, because there's a need to balance those losses that the enterprises are earning. Because as I said, those losses are a real drag on the economy. It's easy to put those losses aside because we don't see them in the central government budget. There's no line item there, which most normal people, most abnormal people like economists also don't look at those balance sheets. They're hidden there. But those losses really have a very real impact on every single person in the sense that they boost interest rates in the economy and ultimately they destroy jobs. So that
Commonwealth Secretary General Kamlesh Sharma met with the chairman of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka, retired Justice Priyantha Pereira, and his delegation yesterday. Speaking at the occasion, Sharma noted that the Commonwealth supports Sri Lanka's efforts to provide a life of dignity and opportunity to all Sri Lankan citizens.
The delegation of the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission is in London to take part in a Commonwealth Roundtable on reconciliation at the Commonwealth Secretariat. The event aims to provide a forum for Commonwealth members to share their experiences on peace and reconciliation in post-conflict situations. The Commonwealth Secretariat and the Sri Lankan Human Rights Commission have agreed on 2 immediate areas of technical assistance which are expected to be carried out over the next 6 months. These include strengthening the capacity of the Commission on effective use of national inquiries as a means of human rights protection and its role in taking forward an agenda aimed at national reconciliation. The Commonwealth believes that the Technical Assistance Bill helps Sri Lanka regain its A status accreditation with the UN International Coordination Committee for National Human Rights Protection Mechanisms.